Hey folks, thanks for stopping by Kaiser's Castle. Today, finally, I've been able to assemble the A team. Dun dun dun. Welcome to Kaiser Castle. Take a seat on my big orange couch. Grab yourself a coffee, tea, soda, or adult libation and get ready to have some fun. We're going to talk about the abortion that was the Venezuelan attempted quote unquote coup. And I say that with tongue firmly in cheek. With that being said, I guess we'll start the circuit on this with Baz, and then it'll go to Kate. And this is the Dream Team, and I'll put in my 2 cents afterwards. I want them to cover what they want. And we have not talked about this beforehand, so you're just going to get the information that we believe is fact. With that being said, Baz, batter's up.
How you doing, Shuffy? All good, brother?
All good, brother Mang.
It's been a while. Work keeping me busy, or another constraints within the nation I'm in. So again, where I'm at, I'm not hearing much news in general, apart from sort of local news. But even I picked up over a week ago on an operational name. And I was thinking, what's that? I skimmed over it and just thought, I didn't think much of it. Now, obviously, from then, this attempted, like you say, inverted brackets coup has gone ahead under the guise of Operation Gideon. Now, it was sort of like took me like a couple of minutes to put two and two together on the actual fuckery that was afoot in Venezuela. And it was like, hang on a minute, that was something I'd heard over a week ago in this place I'm in. So if I'm hearing this, and then other people did it, and I couldn't believe that the operation went ahead as it did, because as it transcribed, there was quite a few details leaked on social media. Then certain other nations' intelligence services, i.e. the Cubans and the Colombians, started putting a bit of work towards it in aid of the Venezuelan sort of dictatorship and hierarchy. And then obviously the Venezuelans were given what information that could be sort of milked from it all from various sources. And as it transcribes, this portion of an operation has gone ahead, and people have ended up dead, in custody, or on the run as of 2 days ago. So again, there's a lot of what I will offer is my opinion, because I'm not in that intelligence loop. I'm not in the decision-making process of this Op Gideon, and I'm no way affiliated to Silver Corps, the Operation Venezuela, or the United States whatsoever. It's just, like you said, my 2 cents worth, what I can see from it, what I've transcribed from it, what I can interpret as someone who's been in and around the sort of line of work that elements of the operation would have touched on. Basically, there's 2 driving factors to what I see. These guys getting on the boat, knowing that the operation is pretty much blown. And please, Kate, Shuffy, tell me if I'm wrong, but there's sort of a large amount of ego and the want of financial gain from it. If I was going to get on that fishing boat and make a daylight insertion, yes, I said daylight insertion, into a non-permissive environment, knowing that my operation's chances are it's blown from the get-go, then there's only 2 factors that are going to get you on that boat. It's 1, ego, that you think you're better than you actually are, or 2, that you're underestimating the opposition. And the money factor. The money factor. We don't do this out the goodness of our hearts. There's a financial gain. Like the end of it, the aim of this is to be financially better off. So these 10th Mountain guys, these ex-10th Mountain guys, have got on a boat with personal documents, no real sort of weapon systems to start a coup or be effective enough in the event of a contact, and they've made a daylight insertion. You can see there's so many things wrong with that already. the 10th group guys are good guys. With 10th group, I've worked with 7th group, and I've worked with 5th group throughout my 2.5 decades of my military career before I left the military. And I know these guys aren't two-bit operators; they are fucking good operators. I've never come across a bad Green Beret. And I think what it is, I think these guys were quite fresh out of the army, and I don't know whether they've left with this assumption that somebody's always there to back them up, big army, or they might have been told that, don't worry guys, we've got your back, and they've got on the board believing that. One, either the false assumption that you've always got big army behind you, green army, or you've always got someone on your back, or under the assumption that someone lied to them and said, don't worry guys, we've got your back if anything goes wrong. And they've made this daylight insertion. Again, daylight insertion, if you're going to make a daylight insertion, you're going in as a local. You're not going to try and stand out, you're not going to dress differently, yada, yada, yada. Now, there's different sort of reports, and there's different photographs flying around of some of these guys actually being stood up next to a vehicle, lying down on the floor, in plastic cuffs. I've seen quite a few photographs, and they're actually wearing the garb of an American contractor. You know, they stand out straight away. Like, one of them had what looked like a Black Rifle Company coffee T-shirt. One of them was dressed in 511 gear. And it's like, could you stand out anymore? To the non-trained person, they look at them and they go, "Oh, they're American guys, possibly contract or military." So it's not difficult to find. If you're going to make a daylight insertion, at least make the fucking effort, or come in at night when no one can see how you're dressed. Bring more weapons and pistols. If you're going to try and launch a coup, and it's something that's been drilled into most military from day one. If you're going to do an insertion somewhere, whether it's in enemy territory, whether you're going on patrol, or all the way up to you're doing denial of operations for the American government, then go in sterile. Don't be carrying your personal documents, veteran ID cards, and so forth, because they can all be used to identify you, to work against you. They can put your families in danger. And everything else, you know what I mean? So it was just fucked from the get-go. And let's say there's a couple of driving factors that was probably got those guys on the boat. Ego and money. And there is a few points out that we can touch on of why it was allowed to go ahead, what might be happening in the background to this. But what I will say is that the Shaw party, of the insertion party, was probably what I've heard was squad strength, and they were meeting up with some Venezuela dissidents that were sort of against Maduro, and it basically because of the Venezuelans were warned off that these Americans were going to, or this coup attempt was going to happen, was quickly intercepted. A gun battle broke out. Several people died. Several people were on the run, and several people, including these two 10th Mountain Group guys, or ex-10th Mountain Group, were captured. And it's going to be a very difficult time for those guys. They're going to be beaten. They're going to be probably tortured for whatever information they have. They're going to be used as propaganda tools for the rest of the world by the Venezuelans, saying, look, the big bad Americans are sending their guys down there to try to take over or kill our leader. They are the bad guys, blah, 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 to garner support for their dictatorship. And at the end of the day, they're going to have everybody else going in there. Like I said, there's going to be different consultants, in inverted commas, sent to Venezuela to question these guys because of, one, operations that are currently ongoing in and around Venezuela. And again, because of their background, they still might have operational details of operations that are still occurring around the world under the radar, because they were ex-Green Berets, depending on how recently they've been on operations. And as you know, the SF world are quite active still, outside of Afghanistan and Iraq. So it's going to be a busy time for those guys, and I wish them well, and I hope they can get out there soon and back to the US, to the families and the loved ones. You want to touch on that, anybody?
Sure. What I'm looking at when we were briefed was these people are supposed to be professionals, even fresh out of the military. These people are trained. They're supposed to know. But going in daylight, just like you said, Baz, with personal documents, no weapons, no comms. From what I understand, they had no operational plan. They had no extraction plan. It was basically a suicide mission. What and the CEO of this company is saying, yes, these are my guys. And the OPSEC was leaked, and that alone would make any pro team stand down on the operation, period. So these guys were really pros, and I'm not saying that they're not, and there might have been ego, but what ego is worth a suicide mission? Because basically that is exactly what they did, and that's exactly what they agreed to when they went in, because they already knew that OPSEC was leaked. And it's my understanding at this point in time, there is no legitimate company at this time that is willing to accept a contract for rescue and extraction. It's a suicide mission. That is one of the things that Venezuela is expecting, is a rescue and extraction, and it's not going to happen. If it does happen, then that company that's hired and accepted that contract are idiots, and that's what I got to say.
Well,
I would dare say if they do bring, sorry, Shafi, I would dare say if one company does step up, then I would say that the first thing that they'll probably be vetted against is this an American company? If so, then I think it would be very smart of the US State Department or intelligence services to say, we don't want an American face on this. We've already had an American face on this with an American company and American operators, which are organising and carrying out an attempted coup for someone who they're basically trying to replace Maduro with this other guy that already resides in the US, who's very US friendly, and it'll just be they're trying to replace. And let's be honest, what they're trying to do is put a US puppet into Venezuela for various reasons. One, for regional stability, as that's the old excuse that gets thrown around quite a lot. But another one, it's because of what Venezuela has to offer. Now, I don't want to mention the O word, but the world revolves around this fucking black stuff, you know. So I would dare say, if there is a company willing to do it, then it would be very, very foolish if it was an American company, whether it's going to be a British company, a South African company. But like you said there, Kate, no company at the minute is even offering that or would be stupid enough to halo jump, insert whatever into Venezuela to try and get these two guys back, because let's be honest, they're not going to be in some one-horse town jail somewhere. They're going to be held at the military intelligence headquarters of the Venezuelan military or state, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, no one's getting them guys out soon without a full-scale invasion or short of. Your thoughts, Shuffy?
All right. First off, I'm glad you mentioned British and South African companies. Yesterday, I did a show on this where I mentioned Tim Spicer, and it was late at night, and I was kind of sleepy. Instead of saying Aegis, Aegis, was his company, I said Armor Group. That was incorrect. And, you know, I always lead with my mistakes. So that is the fact that when I was making the parallel to Equatorial Guinea, that was what I meant to say. Yeah. Okay. Now,
it was. Sorry, just so.
Go on, brother.
Services that the Kinamini services that carried out the attempted coup in Equatorial New Guinea. And from that, obviously, Tim Spicer formed Sandline, which was the sort of like the grandfather, really, of modern private military companies
Simon Mann
led on to.
Simon Mann was with him who started EXO. Yeah, I covered that yesterday. I didn't bring up Keeny Meeny because Keeny Meeny was just a cover between Khalil and, if memory serves, Mark Thatcher, right? Or incorrect?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you cleaned that up too, because I did not bring up Keeny Meeny. Anyway, so I'll just finish on this. That was just me cleaning up last night's show. If you have more to say on that, please pipe in on anything I'm about to say. But I'm talking about this op now. People here in the U.S. were saying Bay of Pigs kind of shit, conspiracy theory. That's incorrect. This was, let me rephrase that. In my thinking, here's how I look at it. I've heard all the BS that people said people were sad operators, this, that, and the other. Bullshit. Nobody would take that. Especially it wouldn't be this rookie. They weren't experienced contractors, and the only reason I know this is because anybody on the circuit would never have done a daylight in infiltration. They wouldn't have done. Yeah, you're not going in daylight. And you're not going to have your operation training area in Colombia right across the border. Because that information is going to filter over just from people going back and forth. So it was, I wouldn't say they're rookies, they're professionals, but I heard the greed element and the ego element, and I agree with that. But there's a third one that I think maybe is close to Bay of Pigs, to where you have somebody, wink wink, who says, yeah, you guys go on. Yeah, it sounds like a solid plan. They get briefed by the head of whatever this company's called. And I have no affiliation with that company or the U.S. government or anything like that. This is me spitballing. And I'm probably more correct than I'm wrong. Probably somebody said, wink wink, yeah, we got your back, no problem. But there may have been a parallel operation that hit the same time they hit, except instead of going by water, they went the night before by jungle or some obscure way of getting in. Very similar to how Executive Outcomes did on several of their operations. If you remember some of them, Baz, you can fill people in. But those operations are Endless and Legion that they did. And they brought everybody to the Abu Ghraib Peace Accord. So that was not a bad thing. The guerrillas and the state at that time, which was, I think, headed up by Captain I think his name was Valentine, last name of Valentine, who was actually the...
Rings a bell.
I think that's who the actual leader was in that area of conflict. So my point is, I think probably something was going on, but either way, if it's that blown, the other operation should have been canceled. And this operation, definitely, if somebody threw this on my plate, and I agree with both of you that they probably thought big army or big government was going to back them up. That's not going to happen. Bay of Pigs proved that if you're going in as mercenaries. It's not going to happen. And those were Cuban nationals that did that. These guys didn't look any way near Venezuelan. But I could be wrong. I could be an idiot. But they didn't look it. It still blows me away. The Black Rifle coffee t-shirt and the 511 polo that was almost ripped off, dude. Why? Just why? You're a fisherman. Why are you wearing something like that? If you're coming in on fishing boats during the day, and those boats were rickety. And so that means you also are relying on locals to go out like they're fishing, and they come back heavy, a couple extra men. You don't think the locals won't notice that as the ship's coming back in? So, there was a lot that went wrong on this. I mean, if those fishermen went out and came back during the evening, that wouldn't have looked out of place. and it would have been a smarter and cleaner op. And that's just my 2 cents. But
Yeah.
I also would have pulled the plug as soon as I would have seen an op name getting brought up. I don't care if the operation is called, let me think of something, let me look at something, WOW. Opie and Anthony's WOW. W-O-W. And once I saw WOW pop up somewhere in regards to Operation WOW, I would have shut it up. I would have shut it down. I'd have been like, this is fucking scrap. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, certainly.
OPSEC's blown. Something's out there, and we need to reshuffle. I definitely wouldn't have allowed a training camp close to a fucking border. That's where you fly people in, or you fucking, and they come in. If they're nationals, they go on vacation somewhere, and then they come back in. Let them go to Cuba, and then onwards into Europe, and then you train them in a third country, away from there. It's just, there's a big fuck up, and it's probably people trying to save money. You know what the common fucking theme is on this shit. It's about saving money, coming in under budget, and greed. I want more of the money that I'm getting paid. And that was another thing even Simon Mann talks about, that he fucked up on. So, that's my 2 cents. And with that, Baz, and then Kate, you guys can rebut me, and I'm open to it. But I think what I said was fairly sound. Go on.
Yeah, I think, like you said there, about coming under budget and things like that. Again, I mean, you're looking over the past sort of like 20 years of how many billions have been made by PMCs, private security companies, and the like. There's contracts to the tune of billions, and I'm looking at sort of Blackwater and Aegis and all the other ones that have piped up, like Compass and Blue Hackle and Triple Canopy and fucking, you know what I mean? The myriads of other companies out there. And
oh, you forgot
I've
one.
never really heard.
You forgot one though. The epic failure of Custer Battles. When I got to Iraq in 2005, I'll never forget the image of these dudes, who's the owner and all the managers, took off in a midnight flight, and as we came on, they were sleeping at BIOP, passing out their CVs, trying to get a fucking another job. And so there are failures in this. It's big boy rules. Sorry about that, brother, but I just had to bring up another failure.
No, I'm glad you did, because it just highlights of again I won't say the ignorance, but again the ego element of some of these things, where it's dog eat dog financial, not just on the ground, but at sort of like company level, at board level, where again this was a good name, not just for the guys on the ground. Again, what drove them to get onto a fucking fishing boat in the middle of the day? Ego, making a name for yourself, financial benefit, yada yada yada, all the way up to board level, saying yes, this is a good idea. Because at the end of the day, if it's we were the company responsible for the replacement of Maduro, you've already launched that company now into the stratosphere. Like, these are the boys to get shit done. Hence, there's a few $1 billion worth of, or $1 billion worth of fucking contracts. You know what I mean? So it's greed from the top to the bottom, and vice versa. And what you said about the other op going in, there's two sort of trains of thought on that. If, let's be honest, because the amount of publicity behind this now is going to blow any op, and it's also going to heighten the threat level to the Venezuelans. Maduro's probably tripled his security details.
Oh yeah, but
shoot on sight. He's probably gone to a secure location. Bam, bam, bam. So any operation that's on the ground has either been binned, or it's going to become an enduring operation where they're going to be slowly meeting these so-called dissidents. They're going to be probably training. It's going to turn into a training opportunity for whoever wants to pick up this operation, without mentioning any names. But again, it's going to make the job 10 times as hard.
Well, like I said,
purely because
if it was going to be a two-party thing, that company was not a part of that decision process, and they probably knew the time of insertion, everything, and they got their guys in a day or two before. You know what I'm saying? And they came in stealthily, and this was maybe made to blow. I mean, think about it. Big boy rules. We all know sometimes you're set up. And, I mean, you want to see two people that know about setups? Simon Mann, Tim Spicer. Both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, finish out what you were saying, but I'm just illustrating what you're saying. It's very correct. And if they are in country now, they are so deep underground, they ain't meeting nobody for a while. Their life has now become a world of shit.
They're picking fruit. They're picking fruit somewhere, these guys. In a safe house, picking fruit, monitoring the radio waves. You know, and I would dare say they're going to be doing that for quite a while until all this shit dies down, and then seeing what the options are. One for either extraction or, we can push forward for this. But again, that goes beyond saying. So yeah, there's a greed level to it as well, and I agree with what you're saying. Somebody at State Department level or moving left or right of that has looked at this and gone, "This is a fuck up. This is a fuck up from before the word go." But someone still said, "Yeah, go on, crack on," because private companies don't invade countries and carry out coups for their own benefit. Well, they do, but there's usually someone at state or national level saying, yes, you can do this because you're an American company. So somebody further up the chain has gone, this is a good idea. And once that guy's left the office, they've said, these fucking idiots are going to be doing this in the middle of the day. Let's get a team together. Let's get them down there, because when these fucking idiots fuck up and everybody's looking at these, we can get the job done, you know. So I agree with what you say. There's certainly something going on in the background, whether there's a team already in place or yada yada.
Well, before Kate jumps on, I just want to illustrate a positive one. People forget about Ross Perot, except for a failed, goofy candidate for president, okay? But he actually did rescue his people from his company from Iran when they were taken hostage. And yet we had big Army, big Air Force, big Navy, everybody involved in Desert One under Carter, and he failed. So there are positive effects, just like what we were talking about earlier with Sierra Leone, which is where Simon Mann and XO cut their teeth. You have success people, and a lot of those people transferred over into the Papua New Guinea. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't want to shit on private companies. There are positive things they can do. But this was not one of them, and the fucking should have been seen coming a mile away. Your thoughts, Kate, or Baz? Baz, you can finish out and let Kate finish out.
Okay.
However.
No, I'll let Kate run with this one.
Well, with the crisis under the Carter administration, I was part of that. We were teams being sent over, and we do not know for a fact if it was the administration or the DOD or who it was, but every helicopter that was sent over there for that crisis, they were shot down. They knew we were coming. They were told in advance of where we were going to be, how we were going to act. They knew our operational plan.
And
with that being said, go ahead.
Do you remember that when it broke out into public, they made it seem like the helicopters were the problem? They were running into each other, a sandstorm, and that has been the deepest, darkest secret.
That has been that's a total lie. That is a total lie. The helicopters were sent over one at a time. I know, because I was on the next helicopter to go over with the team. And we were told to stand down. We were the last helicopter to go over. And we were told to stand down. If not, we would have been shot down as well. We went over one at a time. They knew we were coming. We sent 4 helicopters over. one at a time. And all 4 at different places were shot down. They knew our op. They knew exactly what we were doing. And there were only just small, very small handful that knew what the op was. We weren't even briefed until we were on the helicopter. So, well, anyway, getting back to Venezuela, my opinion is there should have been a stand down order, period, no matter what. Ego aside, funds aside, greed aside, from an operation standpoint, the whole thing smells rotten. A private company or governmental company, the team always comes first. Where my company is concerned, if there was a leak of what we're doing or why we're doing it that way or who's on a team or who's even breathing the wrong way, that operation is zilched. We will not do that op because our team always comes first. In this operation, if you put everything aside and you look at just the facts only, this whole thing, they did not put their team first and foremost. If it was for ego, then that's the team's fault. And if they're supposed to be professionals and they let their ego ride, their ego is what's going to get them killed. If it's a funding thing and they want to save money and training or whatever for this operation, then that company has just put their professionals' lives not only in danger, but they just basically signed their death warrant. You do not go into, it makes 0 sense to me, 0 sense for everything that transpired. It makes 0 sense to me. These are professionals. Ego, even with a large ego, it makes no sense to me. There is something amiss here. It may be that maybe another team is already in there and they're going to lay low, or it may be a ruse from the Venezuelan government to just pick up a couple of people that were just going down there on a vacation or whatever, and that's the only way they could afford was during the daylight on a boat and et cetera. And the government is playing it and saying, look, this is going to help out our government. We're going to pick up these 2 guys, and this is what we're going to say. We're going to say that it was for a coup.
Very possible.
And how do we know that the CEO of this company is not part of or being paid by somebody in Venezuela saying, yes, admit that these are your guys so we can continue doing what we need to do to these people?
Very possible.
And so this CEO stands up and he says, yep, they're our guys. I mean, what CEO would do that? What person would throw their people under the bus knowing that they're going to die? They may not be assassinated, but they're going to wish that they were assassinated. They may not die physically, but their soul and their spirit is going to die for everything that they're going to have to go through. And they're probably going to have to spend life in a Venezuelan prison. So yes, it is a death sentence. What kind of game is being played with the lives of this team?
Oh, I agree. Here's something, Kate. I mean, you know the guy, I believe, Baz may know him. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it. But he was a close friend of mine, and still is. A certain Austrian that was doing anti-piracy ops. And this is right after Obama's Arab Spring in Egypt. And he was going to base out of Egypt, to escort ships through the Somali area. And I told him, specifically, I said, man, thank God the book's not written in English, but in the German translation, is 3 years in Egypt. That's his book. He actually has a book out. And I told him, I said, dude, I said, you go out with the first ship coming in. And he took another guy. I was supposed to go on that op. And he took another guy with him, a German. And they went out there. A matter of fact, Baz, anyways, we'll talk offline on this one. He took another guy with him, and instead of listening to me and making the call from a sat phone 12 miles out with his firearms and his ammunition and making sure he had clearance, because he had licenses. But remember, this is a new government. We're talking a week span. There was a new government in there, and those licenses meant shit. And I said, there's fuckery afoot. Don't do this. And he goes, well, I'll take this and I'll go with it and we'll do it, and I said, okay. And then he said, yes, I'm going to do it your way. Well, no. Instead, he flies into Cairo airport with 4 Mosin Nagants and 250 rounds of 7.62 by 54R. And they had licenses. But guess what? He went to prison for 3 years. And he was used as propaganda for the new Arab Spring government that was being run by the Muslim Brotherhood. And he had a phone smuggled to him several times by his bride, his wife. And I don't know how she smuggled it in. We can all guess. But he had several phones, and I'd always get a call, and I'd talk with him. Good man. But they'd always catch the phone, and I wouldn't hear from him for 6-7 months at a time. And it's just sad that, folks, this is the reality of this world. They will throw anybody under the bus to fuck around. And this is big boy rules. This is what it's all about, folks. This game, the people in the military that want to play this game, here's the problem. You better know the game, because it is the game. It's the ultimate game. It's the game of big boy rules. And big boy rules means you will pay the price. It's the ultimate responsibility, not a nation state. It's you. Anyway, sorry about that rant. Kate, please continue.
If these 2 people, or however many, because there could be more and we're just not being told. If these people were caught and they were military, or former military, I don't know. I don't know, guys. It makes no sense to me. Even in the military, even if you're a grunt, even if you're trained in anything, even if you're trained as a medic, you're still trained. You still have your training. And just like you said, Chef, the rules are different than military rules in mercenary games. If you're going to be a mercenary, if you're going to be out there, you not only need to know the rules, but you need to be prepared for when those rules are implemented against you. If you're not prepared and you are not trained, and I am not talking militarily, if you are not trained, you will be caught. Flat out. Big boy rules. These people which I do have it on, which I can now because I just got the text. There were more than 2. So just so you guys know that. It's not a game that you want to play with your life. And these people played a game and trusted. I do not care. They trusted their company. I do not care who works in the company that I work for. I do not care. I tell them, do not trust us. They trust us anyway. Do not trust us, because we are not going to help you if you break our rules. We have rules. We have operational planning. We have OPSEC. If you break those and you are captured, there is nothing we can do to help you. Do not trust us to help you, because we cannot. We will not put more teams out there to be captured, hurt, or killed because this one team or this one team leader broke the rules. We do have specific rules, and they have to be followed. If you don't follow the rules, you will be captured. Period. You guys know that.
Yep.
You guys know. I mean,
Yep.
Rules. Team leaders say, "Well, rules are meant to be broken." Not these rules.
Not the rules you're talking about. The rules you're talking about are common sense, and they exhibited absolutely nothing of that.
Zero common sense. So what company, what team from any company would actually be willing to be hired to go in and extract these people? Not one. Not one reputable company will do it. If there's a company out there that wants to put their name out there and make themselves look good for what you guys talk about as ego, then they're screwed, because it's their ego and not their training that is going to get them captured. Their training is going to save their lives. Their ego is going to get them captured and killed.
Well, I mean, we do have a near example of that, and that was in 2004, Blackwater and Fallujah. That was just going to get kitchen utensils. I mean, the fuck-ups start from the beginning. It was a rush stop. We can all talk about it after the fact. It's sad what happened to those men, and I knew one of them, and I'm pretty sure you guys know who I'm talking about. Not getting into his name. Anyways, the point is, they go out there, and they didn't know where they were going, didn't have maps, no route reconnaissance, no safe houses, stay at a hotel, ask for directions at the hotel, calls are made, and they get ambushed at the bridge. And we saw what happened. I mean, this is just reality. And those men are trained. The company wanted to prove something to a new client, is basically what they were trying to do. And it was for kitchen utensils. That was what that op was for. And they wanted to get their name out there. So I do think, Kate, you aren't thinking about one thing. I guess Baz has to go. His signal's getting weak now. If it's good, he'll come back on, Kate. Or we'll just end the show after you say your piece. But that's another thing, is when a company wants to get their name out, or a team leader, or anything, wants to be somebody quickly, then that's an issue. And I'm glad to be able to have you guys on, because this episode, I think, is very important to wake people up and mature them. Because you see them in contracting all the time now. You know this as well as I do. And since Baz isn't on anymore, he's seen it too. Dudes fresh out of the military think everything's supposed to run like the military. And they even try to run companies like they're military. Like, I was a staff sergeant. This, that, and the other. Shut the fuck up. It's a dude, a guy. How's it going? You have to build team camaraderie. The discipline thing.
A whole new set of rules. A whole new game.
Everybody knows the discipline. Everybody knows the rules. You know, OPSEC should be fucking number one. And you saw none of that displayed.
It just makes no sense.
I agree.
Why would somebody go on a suicide mission? I agree that maybe their company told them, we have your back if you're captured. Any company, any reputable company, even Blackwater, they tell their people, if you're caught, we can't help you. Period. That's end of discussion. You go in knowing the rules. If you don't know the rules, you shouldn't be in the game.
That's right. Neil Ellis, always, he has this catch line. If you ever meet him, or even in the same doco I'm in with him, he says it in that one. He was like, war, it's a game. It's the ultimate game. What he means by that is this game will end your life. Christopher Hedges does an epic talk on the pornography of war and the addiction of adrenaline. If you guys haven't ever heard Christopher Hedges talk about this, a war correspondent, and I don't give a fuck if he's leftist, he has the most clear-eyed view I've heard. And I'm sure you feel the same way, Kate, on that. There was a time everybody looks at the leftists now as snowflakes. No, there was actually liberals, classical liberals, not what you think are liberals now, that understood. And for some reason, it's the tribalism anyways. Let's not get into the politics of dancing. But the thing is, there is a reality to this, folks. And I've tried to explain this reality numerous times. And I hope you now get it. That this is not a game to be played lightly, because it will bite you in the fucking ass. Forever. You ain't seeing your families anymore. The man I was talking about in Cairo was lucky he got out in 3 years. And that's all I'll say on that. So.
Well, with this so-called attempted coup, because it's the charges against these people are very heavy, and that's high crimes against a leader. I do not see them getting out of prison, if they even live long enough to go to prison.
I agree, but you never know the machinations. A lot of people said that about a lot of people in Equatorial Guinea. So we'll see. We can pray for these young men, and I say young men because I'm going on 52. They're starting their career. But this is one fucking hell of a way to start it. And your thoughts on that, Kate?
They started it and ended it in one mission. Their career is over. Even if on the remote chance that they do get released and they are allowed to go back to their respective countries, no reputable, in my opinion, company is going to hire them.
It'll be like Eugene Hassenfuss when he got killed. Remember, or not got killed, but got shot down running guns for the Iran-Contra thing. He never worked again. He was released. We got him back, but I don't ever remember hearing Eugene Hassenfuss again. And here's how dire it is, especially when you're working in shitholes, folks. And there are shitholes. Mike Econis, probably one of the baddest motherfuckers on this planet at one time in the 80s. He was supporting the Salvadorian National Guard, if I remember correctly. I could be incorrect on that, but I think I am correct. And when he was working for him, he got killed because of OPSEC. And that's back before computers, folks. This is when, well, it wasn't before computers. Computers were around, but they just weren't what they are today. Everybody couldn't know everything. No cell phones.
Right.
You know, this shit is real. And I guess that's what I'm trying to drill in, the realities. And that's why I only trust doing this show with you and Baz. That there are real world ramifications. And I love that you and Baz both brought up, it can extend to your family. If you're gonna if you're gonna play stupid games, you're gonna win stupid prizes, don't drag your fucking family into it.
Right. Yeah.
I think this is the heaviest show we've ever done. Wow. I'm amazed we made it through without me blowing my stack. My blood pressure's up. I'm going to have to take a blood pressure pill.
With any decent, and I'm not going to put down any companies, but if I was an outside person needing to hire a company, security company of some sort, to do some clandestine work of some kind, I would choose a company that the teams had no marriages, because they cannot bring families in.
I agree. It's one of the reasons why. Here's the thing that I look at. The military didn't issue you a wife. If you still do it and you have a wife, then you don't divorce her physically and on paper, but you go in sterile enough that nobody knows you're married. And
Exactly.
you never mention it. And my passport on my address and shit, not filled out. And guess what I don't take? My driver's license. I don't take anything anywhere I go. Because you're going to have to figure shit out. Good luck with that. You're not the U.S. You don't have the NSA. And I'm not going to work in a healthy enough state where you guys have a computer tech that can figure out everything off my computer when I got it locked tight.
Exactly.
Yep.
You don't... just say, for example, a lot of people out there already know what my company does. We trace, track, rescue, and extract victims and survivors of human sex trafficking. And with that being said, every team member is single. We do that because there are no liabilities. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't chew. That is major criteria for being on any of the teams of the company that I work for.
Respectable.
I'm not saying they don't. I'm not saying they don't swear, because I'll tell you what, they swear worse between a truck driver and a sailor and a few other miscellaneous people. They've got the words down. There's words that come out of their mouths that I don't even know exist. They come out like they're best friends. So, with that being said, we don't have a liability, because a liability means, say, for example, these people in Venezuela, getting back to the topic, what if they're married? What if now Venezuela sends a team in? Because, the United States isn't paying attention. They can send a team in, not even from Venezuela. They could be from another country. They could already be here on this soil and go in and knock on the door and say, hey, I'd like to get a picture with you. Then they have a picture of, force it probably. Then they have a photograph of your wife or your child, and they can send that to, say, where these men are being held, and they can say, we have a photograph of your wife, we have a photograph of your child, we have a photograph of your family. You don't tell us what we want, we will kill them.
Well, it's the same thing they can do easily because of our open borders with MS-13.
Exactly.
With MS-13, All they got to do, because Venezuela runs drugs too, all they have to do is circle up through the different communities that they have in the drug world, and they can visit your house, do a complete process of elimination of your entire line. And that's why you do it smart. You do it clean. You know, and it's just a moronacy that, how do I put this, few understand or know when they first jump into it. And I find that not with your company, not with several other companies that I've worked for, but I've worked for some rinky-dinks, and don't want to get into their names because I don't like highlighting shit companies. But we've all worked for them at one point or another. We've all been fucked by something. I've done my shows on things, and I've told people what I thought about these things, but I never highlight them. And I also don't directly call them out as shit companies. I'll just say I would never work for them again.
Right.
But the point is, just like yours, those people should know the real ramifications. And I guess that's why I'm doing this video. Not video, really. It's, I guess, a blog, a vlog, whatever you want to call it, that's spoken.
This show.
Yeah, it's a show. And take it for what it's worth. You know, believe me, disbelieve me, call me a cunt. It doesn't matter. I'm actually doing this out of concern because I wish I had your faith, Kate. But unfortunately, I don't. I know somebody will take the contract. There always is that person. And
I know.
It'll just be shit again. So, or they'll die beforehand, or their families will. Who knows? I don't know their marital status or anything, or what they have going on in their personal lives. But I know anybody I work with, I'm more concerned about the guys I'm working with than I am about myself.
That's the way it should be.
It is. It's got to be. And if it's not, then I need to leave. So
your team comes first.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah. In everything.
That's how you gain loyal team members.
Yep. And that's how you get a good name in it. So it is what it is. Now, do you have any final words? Because I think we've kicked the hell out of this fucking horse, whipped it, ran it, and killed it.
Yep, I think we've beat that dead horse enough.
All right.
Hopefully people will and learn from this.
We hope, right? Live in hope, die in despair. It's always good, right?
There you go.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you laugh. Here's the thing, folks. I'm going to close out. And I've been happy that finally, it's been a couple weeks. You guys haven't heard from Baz and Kate. Finally, we were able to do a show. And this, I think, is this is the most important show I've ever done for those first coming into this. This is the ultimate game, folks. It's not a joke. We take it seriously. We may laugh and be light about things, but we don't take it lightly. And just wrap your mind up in that. We've all seen our fair share of fuckers. Let's not be those fuckers. With that being said, thank you for stopping by Kaiser's Castle. Thank you for sitting on my big orange couch, enjoying your coffee, tea, soda, or adult libation, if you wish. With that being said, I wish I could be happier saying this as I normally am, but the seriousness of this demands more respect and somberness. Shut up.